Today we're going to be looking at multiplying and factoring polynomials. So first let's take a look at how we can distribute a monomial. So 2x times 6x to the third. So 2 times 6 is 12, and our x times x to the third. So this is x to the first. When we multiply our x, multiplying like bases, we add our exponents, so it's x to the fourth. 2 times a negative 1 is a negative 2. And x to the first times x squared is x to the third. 2x times 5x, so 2 times 5 is 10. X to the first times x to the first is x squared. Negative 5 times 9 is a negative 45, and so then x to the third times x squared becomes x to the fifth. Negative 5x cubed times by negative 8x cubed, so negative 5 times negative 8 is a positive 40. X to the third times by x is x to the fourth. Negative 5x to the third times by negative 5, so negative 5 times negative 5 is a positive 25. X to the third times by no x's is just x to the third. So let's look at the next one. Negative 3x to the seventh times by x to the fourth. So negative 3 times by 1 is a negative 3. X to the seventh times by x to the fourth becomes x to the 11th. Negative 3x to the seventh times by a negative 6x squared. So negative 3 times a negative 6 is a positive 18. X to the seventh times by x squared becomes x to the 9th. And negative 3x to the seventh times by 5. Negative 3 times 5 is a negative 15. X to the 7th times x to the 0 is x to the 7th. So let's simplify and write into standard form. So let's distribute our x squared. So x squared times x is x to the third. X squared times 1 is x squared. So then a negative x times by x squared is a negative x to the third. And negative x times a negative 1 becomes a positive x. So now we can combine like terms. So x to the third minus x to the third is 0. So we're left with x squared plus x. So let's look at our next one. 2x times x, so 2 times 1 is 2. X times x is x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. Negative x times 3x squared. Negative 1 times 3 is a negative 3. X times x squared is x to the third. Negative 1 times by 4 is a negative 4. X times x is x squared. Negative 1 times a negative 2 is a positive 2. X times x to the 0 is x. So let's combine like terms. Negative 3x to the third has no like terms to combine. But we have 2x to the fourth and a negative 4x squared, or sorry, 2x squared and then negative 4x squared becomes a negative 2x squared. 10x and 2x becomes 12x. And this is in standard form because we're going from our highest degree of 3 down to our lowest. So let's take a look at greatest common factor. Greatest common factor is the greatest factor. It's a number or variable that divides two terms, 2 or more. So let's take a look here. Let's find all the factors of 9. So we have 1 and 9, and 3 times 3. And the factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So here we have 1a, and this one we have 0. So our greatest common factor between both is a 3. And since we only have 1a to take out and no a's here, our greatest common factor between both of our terms is a 3. So let's take a look at the next one. We have 2 and 10. So we have 1 and 2 for factors. In 10 we have 1 and 10, 2 and 5. So the greatest common factor between both is a 2. So let's take a look at our variables. We have 3 x's and 1 x. So the most we can take out of each that's shared evenly is we can only take out 1 from each. So our greatest common factor is a 2x. So look at our next one. factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Factors of 15, 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Factors of 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. So the greatest common factor between all three of them is 3. Here we have 5 x's, 3, and 2. So the most we can take out of each, that's an even amount for all of them. So we can only take out 2, because we can't take out any more than 2 in this one. So our greatest common factor is 3x squared. So let's take a look at the back side. We want to factor each polynomial. So first we want to do what we're doing, finding our greatest common factor. So 6 has 1 and 6, 2 and 3. 4 is 1 and 4, and 2 and 2. So between both of them, the greatest common factor is a 2. We have 1x and no x's, so since we can't take any x's out of this one, our greatest common factor is just a 2. So I'm going to write parentheses. So since our greatest common factor is 2, we're going to divide all of our terms by our greatest common factor. 6 divided by 2 is 3x. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So that's in factored form. So let's take a look at the second problem. Factors of 10, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Factors of 25, 1 and 25, 5 and 5. And all the factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. So between all three, the greatest is 5. And then we have 3 x's, 2 x's, and no x's. So since we don't have any x's on our third term to take out, it's not part of our greatest common factor. So now we divide all three terms by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, x to the third. Negative 25 divided by 5 is a negative 5, x squared. 20 divided by 5 is 4. For all of these, if you ever want to check to make sure if you did it correctly, if you then just distribute back, you should end up with where you started. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times the negative 2 is a negative 4. Here, 5 times 2x to the third is 10x to the third. 5 times negative 5x squared is negative 25x squared. And 5 times 4 is 20. So let's look at our last two examples. So we want to find the factors of 15, which are 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. And 12, we have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So the greatest common factor between all three of them is 3. We have 3 x's on our first term, 2 x's on our second, and 1 on our third. So the most we can take out of our third one is 1x, so that means that's the most we can take out of all of them. So we can take out 1x. We're going to divide all three terms by our greatest common factor, which is our 3x. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. Unlike the other one, when we multiply like bases, when we add our exponents, when we divide, we subtract. So x to the third divided by x to the first becomes x squared. 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 3 divided by 3 is a negative 1. X squared divided by x leaves us with 1x. 12 divided by 3 is 4. X divided by x, our x's become 1. So let's look at our last example. All the factors of 8 are 1 and 8, and 2 and 4. 12, we have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. 24, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So the greatest common factor between all of them is a 4. Here we have 7 t's. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here we have 4 t's. And here we have 3. So the most we can take out of the least is 3. So that means we can only take out of 3 from all of them. So our greatest common factor is 4t to the third. So that's what we're going to divide all of our terms by. 8 divided by 4 is 2. T to the 7th divided by t to the third becomes t to the 4th. 7 minus 3 is 4. Negative 12 divided by 4 is a negative 3. T to the 4th divided by t to the third is t. 4 minus 3 is 1. 24 divided by 4 is 6. T to the third divided by t to the third becomes 0 t's. So that's our factored form.